The wind howled through the open doorway as I stood there, looking at the packed suitcase by my feet. The house was silent, except for the distant ticking of the old clock on the wall. My wife sat on the couch, her arms crossed, eyes filled with disbelief. "You're really doing this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I picked up my coat, shaking off the weight of hesitation that clung to me. She had said no. Now, she was about to understand what that really meant. It hadn't started like this. A week ago, I had simply asked for something. Not money, not power, just something that mattered to me. Something I thought we could share. But her rejection had been immediate, sharp, and absolute. "No," she had said. "That's not happening. No discussion. No compromise. Just a firm no, as if my feelings didn't matter. As if my dreams didn't deserve even a moment of consideration." At first, I had laughed it off. Maybe she didn't understand. Maybe she needed time. But the days passed, and nothing changed. Her stance remained firm, and so did her indifference. So, I had made a decision. A bold one. A final one. Now, as I stood by the door, ready to step out, she finally spoke again, her voice trembling. "You're making a mistake," she said, standing up. "You think this will teach me a lesson? That I'll suddenly change my mind?" I smiled, not out of amusement, but out of certainty. "This isn't about changing your mind," I said. "This is about showing you what it feels like to be unheard." She took a step forward, realization dawning in her eyes. For the first time, she was the one who didn't have control. I turned and stepped out into the cold night, the door clicking shut behind me. She had said no. Now, she would understand what no truly felt like. The cold night air wrapped around me as I walked down the empty street, suitcase in hand. I wasn't running away, I was making a point. She had said no to me without a second thought. Now, she would feel the weight of that word. But this wasn't just about her. This was about us, about the way things had been for years. I thought back to the moment it all started. A week ago, I had sat across from her at the dinner table, excitement buzzing in my chest. "I've been thinking," I had said. "I want to take that trip we always talked about. Just the two of us, no work, no stress, just time together." She didn't even look up from her phone. "No," she said simply. "That's not happening." I had laughed at first, thinking she was joking. "I'm serious," I said. "We always said we'd do this once we had enough saved up. We finally do. What's stopping us?" She finally looked at me, and her face held nothing but dismissal. "I don't want to," she said. "And I don't think it's a good use of money. End of discussion." End of discussion. That was always how it went. It wasn't just this trip, it was everything. Whenever I wanted something, needed something, she had the final word. And it was always no. No to the new job opportunity that meant moving cities. No to starting a small business together, something I had dreamed of for years. No to changing our routine, even when I felt stuck in the same endless cycle. But when she wanted something, I compromised. I adjusted. I made it work. Because that's what you do when you love someone. And that's when it hit me. I had spent years making space for her needs while mine were always pushed aside. She never had to feel what it was like to be dismissed, to be unheard. That's why I packed my bags. Not to leave forever, not to punish her, but to make her see what it felt like when decisions were made without her input. Now, as I sat on a bench at the train station, my phone buzzed. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Then a text followed, "Where are you?" For the first time in years, I didn't rush to answer. She had told me no. Now, for the first time, she would feel what it was like to be the one left waiting. The train's whistle blew in the distance. I wasn't leaving for good. But I wasn't going home just yet either. Let her sit with it. Let her wonder. Let her feel the weight of being unheard. The train's whistle faded into the night as I sat there, staring at my phone. She had always been the one in control. Always the one who made the rules, who decided what was worth doing and what wasn't. But now, for the first time, she was the one left waiting, uncertain, powerless. Her message, "Where are you?" sat unread on my screen. I didn't reply. Instead, I leaned back against the cold metal bench and let her sit with that silence. The same silence she had given me whenever she shut down my dreams, my ideas, my desires. She had always assumed I'd be there. That no matter how many times she dismissed what I wanted, I'd stay. And for years, I did. Because I loved her. Because I thought love meant being patient. But love is not one-sided obedience. It's listening, understanding, and meeting halfway. Another buzz. This isn't funny. Answer me. She was feeling it now. The frustration. The helplessness. The way a simple no can become a wall so high you can't see past it. I closed my eyes and let the moment settle. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just wanted her to understand. When I finally got up, I didn't board the train. I wasn't leaving. Not really. I just needed time, to think, to breathe, to remind myself who I was before everything became about keeping her happy at my expense. I found a small motel on the other side of town, the kind with flickering neon signs and vending machines that only took exact change. As I checked in, my phone buzzed again. A call this time. I stared at it for a long moment before hitting decline. If she wanted answers, she could wait. Back at home, she paced the living room, her fingers gripping the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. He had never done this before. She had expected him to come back after an hour, maybe two. To realize how ridiculous he was being and apologize. That's what he always did. But it had been 4 hours now. She had tried to distract herself, watching TV, scrolling through her phone, but nothing worked. The silence in the house was suffocating. She had gotten so used to him always being there that now, the emptiness felt unbearable. For the first time, she thought back to all the times she had told him no. To the times she had dismissed his excitement, thinking it was harmless. To the way she had shut him down, not out of cruelty, but because she simply didn't think it mattered that much. But it did. She never thought about how it made him feel, because he never complained. Never fought back. Until now. And that scared her. She stared at her last message, the one he still hadn't replied to. With shaky hands, she started typing another. Come home. Please. She hesitated before hitting send. This time, she wasn't demanding. This time, she was asking. The motel room was small and quiet, the kind of place people stayed in when they needed to disappear for a while. I sat on the bed, staring at the blinking cursor of my phone. Come home. Please. She had finally said it. Not a demand. Not an argument. A request. For the first time, I felt a shift. Maybe she was starting to understand. Maybe, for once, she felt what it was like to have the person you counted on suddenly step away. But was that enough? I tossed my phone onto the nightstand and leaned back against the pillow. I wasn't ready to reply yet. She sat on the couch, gripping her phone like a lifeline. Still no response. A part of her wanted to be angry. She was used to being the one who set the rules, the one who decided what was reasonable and what wasn't. But another part of her, one she had ignored for years, felt something else entirely. Regret. For the first time, she replayed the last few years in her mind, not through the lens of her own choices, but through his. She had always expected him to adjust to her decisions. Always assumed he'd be fine as long as she was comfortable. She never thought about what it felt like to constantly be on the losing side of every decision. Her stomach twisted at the thought. Had she been unfair? Had she taken him for granted? She thought back to the trip he had wanted, the one she had dismissed so easily. No, that's not happening. She had said it without thinking. Without even asking him why it mattered so much. Her throat felt tight. She glanced at the empty spot on the couch where he usually sat, sipping his evening tea, watching whatever show she picked because she never bothered to ask if he wanted to watch something else. The silence was unbearable. I stood by the motel window, watching cars pass by in the dim glow of the streetlights. I knew I had made my point. She felt it now. The emptiness. The uncertainty. But was that enough? A notification lit up my phone. Another message. I'm sorry. 2 words. But they meant more than any argument we had ever had. She had never said that before. Not once. I exhaled, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. She was finally seeing it. She was finally understanding. I picked up my suitcase and headed for the door. I wasn't going home just to forgive and forget. I was going home to see if things could truly change. The drive home felt longer than it should have. The night was quiet, the roads nearly empty. As I turned onto our street, the familiar sight of our house came into view, warm lights glowing inside, but feeling colder than ever. I parked but didn't step out immediately. I wasn't coming back as the man who always backed down. I was coming back to see if she truly understood. I reached for my phone, reading her last message again. I'm sorry. It wasn't just an apology. It was a question. Was sorry enough? I stepped out, suitcase in hand, and walked to the door. She heard the car before she saw him. Her heart raced, but she stayed seated, afraid to move too quickly. What would she say? What would he say? The door opened. There he was. Not angry. Not smug. Just, there. For a moment, they stared at each other, an entire conversation passing between them in silence. Finally, she stood. I made tea, she said softly. I wasn't sure if you'd come back. He nodded but didn't move further inside. Why did you send that message? He asked. She hesitated, running a hand through her hair. Because I finally understood what you meant, she admitted. I never really thought about how it must have felt for you. Always being the one to adjust. Always hearing no, I just assumed. I don't know. That you'd always be okay with it. He let her words hang in the air. And are you okay with it now? He asked. She shook her head. No. A sad smile touched his lips. Then you finally understand what no really feels like. Her breath caught. This was the moment. For years, she had been the one in control. The one who dictated their lives, their choices. But now, for the first time, she wasn't sure where they stood. He placed the suitcase down. Not unpacking, not leaving. Just waiting. She swallowed hard and stepped closer. I don't want things to be like this, she said. I don't want to be the person who shuts you down without even thinking. I don't want to be the one making all the choices for both of us. He studied her for a moment before responding. Then prove it, he said simply. Her stomach clenched. How? He shrugged. You tell me. She hesitated, then took a slow breath. I still have some money put aside, she said. For that trip you wanted. We could go. Just the 2 of us. No work. No stress. She saw surprise flicker across his face. She had never offered a compromise before. never changed her mind. His lips parted like he was about to say something, but instead, he just watched her, waiting. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Would you still want to go? For the first time, she wasn't saying no. And for the first time, he wasn't sure if he should say yes. The room was silent. She had just asked him something she never had before. Would you still want to go? For years, he had dreamed of this moment, of her finally seeing things from his side. Of her choosing to meet him halfway. But now that it was here, he didn't know how to feel. Trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt in a single moment. He looked at her carefully. Are you saying this because you mean it? Or because you think it'll fix things? She swallowed, shifting her weight uncomfortably. I don't know, she admitted. I don't want to be the kind of person who dismisses the things that matter to you. His chest tightened at her words. For the first time, she was questioning herself. And that mattered. Still, he wasn't ready to just accept it. I don't want a trip just for the sake of it, he said. I wanted something we could share. Something that wasn't just about you or me, but us. She bit her lip, nodding. I know. Silence stretched between them again, thick with uncertainty. Then, after a long pause, she spoke again. I never thought about how much I controlled things, she admitted. I never meant to, but I see it now. And I don't want to be like that anymore. Her voice was quiet, but it held something new. Not guilt. Not obligation. A choice. She was choosing to be different. I don't expect you to believe me right away, she continued. But I want to show you that I mean it. Not just with this trip, but with everything. He exhaled, feeling some of the weight lift from his chest. You've never said anything like that before, he said. She gave a small, sad smile. I never had to. You always went along with what I wanted anyway. She was right. For years, he had let her lead because he thought that was what love meant, keeping the peace, making her happy. But now, she was realizing that love wasn't about one person always getting their way. And that realization mattered more than any trip. He nodded slowly. I'll go, he said finally. Relief flashed across her face, but he held up a hand. But this isn't about the trip, he said. It's about what comes after. About how we do things moving forward. She nodded quickly. I understand. He studied her one last time before picking up his suitcase. I'll unpack, he said. But I'm not going back to the way things were. She reached for his hand, hesitating for a moment before lacing her fingers through his. I don't want that either, she whispered. For the first time in a long time, he believed her. And for the first time in a long time, they weren't on opposite sides. The sound of waves crashed softly against the shore as they walked side by side, their footprints marking the damp sand. The salty breeze carried the scent of the ocean, mixing with the distant hum of laughter and conversation from other travelers. It had been 2 weeks since they left home, 2 weeks since she had looked him in the eye and admitted that she had never really considered what he wanted. And now, standing under the warm glow of the setting sun, she finally saw what she had almost lost. She watched as he gazed out over the horizon, the tension in his shoulders lighter than she had seen in years. You look different, she said softly. He smirked. What does that mean? She hesitated. Lighter. More, yourself. For a long time, she had thought that he was just quiet by nature, someone who didn't need much to be happy. Now, she realized he had simply stopped fighting for what he wanted because he had always been met with resistance. Her chest ached at the thought. I need to ask you something, she said, stopping in her tracks. He turned to face her, curious. Go ahead. She exhaled slowly, gathering the words carefully. When we go back home, how do I make sure I don't fall back into old habits? His eyes softened, and for the first time in this entire journey, she wasn't just saying the right things, she truly wanted to change. "You don't have to be perfect," he said. "I just need to feel like what I want matters to you. Like we're building something together, not just following your plans." She nodded. That was fair. "Then promise me something," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "If I ever start shutting you out again, don't let me. Call me out on it. Make me listen." He chuckled. "That's new." "I mean it," she said, stepping closer. "I don't ever want to go back to the way things were. I didn't realize how much I was taking from you until I felt it myself." He studied her for a long moment, then reached out and took her hand. "Okay," he said. "But only if you promise me something too." She tilted her head. "What's that?" "That if you ever feel like I'm being distant, you'll ask why instead of assuming I'll always be fine." The words hit her harder than she expected. For years, she had believed that he would always adjust, always be okay. Now, she knew better. "I promise," she whispered. The ocean waves rolled forward, washing over their feet as they stood in silence, fingers intertwined. For the first time in years, they weren't just two people living side by side. They were truly in this together. And that was what love was supposed to be.